today's show, I'm joined by Paul Dawalibi. And the fact that, people call you the prophet, I think you're pretty much the right guy to have.
Follow the prophecies, you'll make profit.
Paul, I'm super excited to have you on the show. I've been wanting to have someone from the gaming industry.
The disruption by Holodecks will be 100x.
What does gaming mean to you?
Oh, massive. There's already an investment. The futurist fund. These people are ready to spend.
If you're in Hollywood, you can't wait 60 years for a movie.
No Hollywood movie is going to sell like GTA 6 is going to sell.
And you've named your company after it.
Give 3 ideas on how we could gamify this show. That's a good one.
I think you're pretty much the right guy to have. Called you the prophet because you made a lot of prophecies and they ended up coming true.
I've been right a lot. I mean, I can't be humble about that. I have been right a lot about the future.
Hello everyone, on today's show, I'm joined by Paul Dawalibi. He's the CEO of Holodeck Ventures, but he's best known as the Prophet. Why do they call him the Prophet? Well, he tends to make predictions that end up being true, especially when it comes to gaming. He's been a VC for 20 years, but his expertise really lies on understanding what the future of gaming looks like. The word gaming is quite a dirty word, or at least it has been for the last 10 years. It's been a bit taboo. We have these insights or thinking about people who are gamers as sitting in their basement playing video games, and they tend to be young men. The reality is very, very different. With 3 billion gamers in the world and the biggest entertainment industry in the world, gaming is here and it's here to stay. So on today's show, I'm going to explore all of the insights about gaming and what his take is on this region.
I'm here with Paul Dawalibi. He is the CEO of Holodeck Ventures.
And I would talk about the future a lot. Yeah. My whole brand is about the future.
Yeah. The prophet, okay.
We should play there. But I want to talk about fun today. I'm all about fun. I only do stuff that's fun. I believe the future is fun.
And these prophecies would tend to come true. And so people started calling me a prophet and realizing that if you listen to my prophecies, you could actually make a lot of money.
Thank you for having me, Luca. Excited to be here.
Mate, I'm super excited. And I have to say, first off, I love your shoes. They are fantastic.
I am known for my shoes.
How many shoes do you have at home?
Way too many, hundreds of pairs.
Where'd you put them?
I have a lot of space for them.
What does the wife say about all of this?
There's a lot of space taken up in the house dedicated to my shoe habit. But there's logic behind the insanity.
Mate, I'm sensing that's going to be a common trait with you. There's logic behind a lot of the insanity.
I think there is to just about everything.
No, Paul, I'm super excited to have you on the show. I've been wanting to have someone from the gaming industry come on, and someone who is as informed as you are as well, to actually really share some great insights about the industry and also where we're headed, what's going to happen in the future. And the fact that people call you the prophet, I think you're pretty much the right guy to have.
I've been right a lot. I mean, I can't be humble about that. I have been right a lot about the future.
But you came from Canada and the US, and they called you the prophet because you made a lot of prophecies and they ended up coming true. Right?
Yeah, I talk about the future a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in the future and technology. Most of my career has been in technology and startups and companies trying to build the future. So I always have a thesis about the future, right? I have a vision of the future.
Yeah.
And my prophecies ended up coming true. And so people started calling me the prophet. When I moved to the region, I think with an F, prophet with an F was a bit more palatable.
I was going to say.
it works better, to be honest. It's an even better brand.
A bit of ROI on there as well. Fantastic.
Yeah, if you believe the prophecies, if you follow the prophecies, you'll make profit. So
yeah, I love it. And your biggest prophecy that turned out to be correct, what was that?
I don't know, biggest. I mean, I was telling people to buy NVIDIA stock long before NVIDIA was an AI company because it was a gaming company. People, riding the AI boom today think NVIDIA is an AI company. It's not. They're a gaming company fundamentally. Probably that made a lot of people quite a bit of money. But I think the one that maybe was most controversial was, and this is a gaming reference, Google at one point announced something called Google Stadia.
Okay.
It was cloud gaming. And they were saying this was going to be the future of gaming, where everyone was just going to have a dumb terminal and all of the computation was going to be done in the cloud. You didn't have to worry about it. And I said Google Stadia was never going to work. And I got booed at conferences. I got plenty of hate from lots of people who thought this was the future of gaming. And Google Stadia got shut down like 2 years after.
And
Google
the flip
announced
side,
it.
what was the one prophecy that you got just completely wrong?
Oh, I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong.
Luca. Oh, hello. Look at this. I love the confidence. I love the swagger, and I love the shoes. Normally, I start with the mug, but in this case, I had to start with the shoes. But let's talk about the mug. What's the mug that you brought in here?
Although, hold on, the shoes you will appreciate. As a marketing guy,
I love them. Fantastic. They make a statement. I tell you that.
There's a lesson in it, right?
Yeah.
Half the battle in life is being memorable. It's being remembered.
Yeah, I'm going to remember the fact that you have hundreds of pairs of shoes as well.
And you'll remember that the shoes are kind of ugly, right?
Yeah.
They're a little out there.
You know, I missed a trick when I was coming up with the show, the concept about the mug and keeping the mugs over your shoulder.
Yeah.
If I had done it about shoes, it would have been a bit smellier, but it'd been a lot more colorful, that's for sure.
Maybe colorful, maybe. I don't know. A lot
yeah.
of people wear boring shoes, so I don't know.
Yeah, nice. Anyway, tell me about the mug. What's going on here?
The mug, Star Trek. Star Trek has more accurately predicted the future more than any other show in history. So if you're someone who's thinking about the future, if you're someone betting on the future, if you're someone building the future, Star Trek should be your Bible. Now, we can debate, why is that? Why do you think Star Trek has predicted cell phones, iPads, all these things that we saw in Star Trek?
Someone came back from the future, basically.
Could be,
yeah.
Right? Maybe Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, was an alien from the future and had seen it all and came back and made a show, TV show, right? Could be.
Yeah.
It could also be that the engineers who watched Star Trek growing up dreamed of building the things that they saw on TV. I think that's kind of a cool thought too.
Which is exactly what, by the way, you're doing with Holodeck, right?
That's it.
It was inspired by Star Trek.
It was inspired by Star Trek. And Holodeck was a room on the starship in Star Trek. And you could go into this room, you could go into the holodeck, and you could ask the holodeck for anything you wanted. You could say, I want to go skiing in the Alps. And all of a sudden, there's snow under your feet, it's cold, you're high up, you're wearing a snowsuit. To your mind, you're in the Alps, you're skiing. You cannot tell the difference if this is real or not.
It's indistinguishable from real life.
Absolutely indistinguishable. This is what in tech we call the uncanny valley.
So how soon till that happens?
Till we have holodecks? Look,
I mean, you've named your company after it, so you must believe in the end goal, right? It's going to come at some point.
Holodecks are coming. Now, whether it's a room like in Star Trek or it's an implant feeding electrical signals to our brain to make us believe we're seeing and feeling something, that we can debate.
But you're the prophet. I would love a prediction on when you think a certain form of holodeck will come into market.
Definitely in our lifetime.
Okay.
If you put a gun to my head, I say 20 years.
We don't do guns on the inside track.
Okay. Well, if hypothetically,
we do knives. Okay.
20 years.
In 20 years' time.
20 years.
Isn't that crazy?
I think,
honestly, take a step back. I know you're in the middle of it, and I know you're running your own ship and your own. I mean, pardon the pun, but that's crazy, isn't it? In 20 years, you're going to be able to create any kind of real life experience that you want at any moment's notice.
It's crazy to think about, but it's actually a lot easier than people think. Have you ever done any VR, like immersive VR, like an Oculus headset?
Yeah, done that.
Did you ever do something called...
I got dizzy, by the way, when I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I got a bit dizzy.
I mean, the tech is getting better.
Yeah.
The headsets are not perfect, but there's an experience that anyone can download if you have a VR headset called walking the plank.
Yeah.
And I usually do this when I work with governments. I put a headset on a minister and I make them walk the plank. And the experience is simple. It takes you up in an elevator. So you put the headset on, you're in an elevator. The elevator takes you up. You see the elevator going up around you.
Yep.
And then the elevator doors open and there's a wooden plank overlooking, 1,000-foot drop from a building. And you're supposed to walk this plank, right? Walk out of the elevator and onto this small wooden board. The brightest people I know, the most accomplished people I know, who 10 seconds ago put on this headset and knew they were standing on firm ground, all of a sudden are terrified. Absolutely terrified.
The brain and the mind are the most powerful things, right?
They're powerful, but they're easily manipulated. That's why marketing works, right? So you don't even need touch and smell and taste to fool your brain. Can you imagine once we're able to engage all those things, how deeply immersed, how deeply fooled?
But how come 4D cinemas never took off, right? Because it's halfway between, getting into a different type of world. It's the first analogy that came to my mind.
It's a good one, but you're not a principal in that world. You're not the actor in that world, right? It's not interactive in any way. And if you lose the interactivity, you lose some of the immersion, right? Because it doesn't feel real anymore if I'm just a viewer. But holodecks are going to get to the point where you will not be able to distinguish between the two, real and virtual. And that has huge implications for humanity, massive. Like no one understands, like we're all talking about AI as the big disruptor. The disruption by holodecks will be 100x, 1,000x.
Travel, education, retail.
Everything. the entire adult industry, all of entertainment, like you said, travel, education, retail, healthcare, you name it.
Nice.
Absolutely. People will spend a good portion of their life plugged in.
So the prophet saying potentially with a knife to your chest.
Yeah.
We're not like that. We're nice people.
Yeah.
It's a plastic knife. I've got two young boys.
And to the chest.
It's a
not
plastic
kill
car.
shot.
It's a plastic car to your
Yeah.
chest. Within 20 years, potentially.
20.
So by 2045.
Yeah.
That's big. I'll get you on in 20 years' time. We'll see what shoes you're bringing. But by the way, on the Star Trek mug, this is all fascinating. And this is one of many things I want to talk to you about today. But before we move on from the mug, when I grew up, it was Star Trek or Star Wars. There was you couldn't find a Star Trek who loved Star Wars and vice versa. Why is that? Why couldn't they coexist in the same?
I think that's more of I don't think that's actually reality. I think there's a lot. I love both. I know a lot of people who love both.
But you know what I mean? There seemed to be
different.
two sides. Yeah, they were. But there seemed to be two sides, two camps.
Star Trek really was a futurist view of the future, meaning it was a future that was possible for humanity. Star Wars was always just fantasy, right? It's space opera, it's space cowboys, it's space fantasy.
Yeah.
But Star Trek was like a view into what could be possible for humanity.
Okay, I've got an elephant in the room, as you can see. Right?
Yeah.
I brought this back. It was in season 1, right?
Yeah.
Season 2, it was somewhere in the room. Season 3, it's right next to me. How big a geek were you when you were a kid?
Oh, massive.
Are you still a geek now?
Huge.
Okay, so what does it mean to be a geek?
Look, my Friday, Saturday nights were spent at home gaming.
Love it.
Right? And the interesting thing is how the perception of that has evolved over time.
Yeah.
Right? When I was growing up, being a geek was not cool. You didn't tell girls that you were a gamer. It's just not something that you didn't tell girls you were an entrepreneur. You didn't tell girls that you were a gamer. They assume you live at home and you're unemployed.
How old were you when you had your first kiss? I'm very curious.
Oh, I was old. I was old. I was probably like 18, 19.
Okay, that's not so bad. Okay.
But the perception of these things, being an entrepreneur, being a gamer, things that were verifiably uncool 30, 40 years ago, all of a sudden now are
mainstream.
Not only mainstream, but popular.
You got nearly 3 billion gamers in the world?
3.5 billion, depending on what study you look at. And that counts everyone, right? Like people say, well, I'm not a gamer. And then you look at their phone and they've got Candy Crush on their phone. Well, you're a gamer, right? Like gaming doesn't discriminate. You don't have to be sitting playing Fortnite all night long to be a gamer. If you play Candy Crush on the subway, that counts.
So talk to me about the different forms of gaming out there, because we're having a little chat off camera. From an advertiser and a marketing perspective, I worked with some of the biggest clients in the world and also in the region, and they always talked about gaming, but they would never invest in gaming. And I was saying to you, perhaps because it's a little bit complicated in terms of the points of entry, also the perception that we talked about, the sort of the taboo factor it's not quite yet mainstream, and the association of lack of premiumness potentially as a advertising vehicle. What does gaming mean to you? Because it is all encompassing.
For sure. And it's a big umbrella term, right? It's kind of like saying we're going after sports fans, right? Like the cricket fan may be quite different from the fan of football, maybe different from the fan of hockey or golf, right? That fan base may be different. That audience may be different. So you can't just have this blanket term. Now, there are some similarities, right? There have been studies done that look at, for example, discretionary spending of gamers and discretionary income of gamers. And gamers, on average, make more money, spend more, have higher education than the average. So as a demographic, it's actually quite a valuable demographic for marketers.
Same as podcast listeners, by the way. Podcast listeners are the same thing.
Yeah.
They have a much higher level of spend when it comes to
and it's probably because they're tech savvy, right? And they're educated. And there's a reason for this, that there's underlying reasons for this.
And by the way, just to interject, there seems to be some similarities between podcasters and the association of podcasting and also gaming, where there was it's been around for a long, long time, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, advertisers have also stayed a little bit away from it. But actually, if you look at in the last 12 months and what's happened in obviously the US elections, how podcasting has become right to the fore when it comes to a media vehicle of influencing masses, it's changed the game.
For sure. And that long form is always the best way to deliver deep information. And if I had a guess why there's quite a bit of overlap, it's because the gamer is used to sitting down and putting an hour or 2 hours into something, right? You're going into World of Warcraft, or you're playing Fortnite, or you're playing Minecraft, and it's okay like to spend an hour or 2 hours there. And a podcast requires that level of attention also.
Yeah.
And I would guess that's probably why there's some overlap. But as a market, as an audience, to your point, I actually think gaming is massively underserved.
100%.
Because, like you said, the brands don't fully understand it, are a little bit scared of it. There's a perception that it's just 10-year-old kids.
Yeah, and also the different types of gaming. You've got console gaming, you've got
Yep.
social gaming, you've got mobile gaming, you've got PC gaming. I mean, you know more than I do.
Absolutely, right? You have everything from what they would call hyper casual. So that's like Candy Crush on your phone.
How many people are playing? Okay, how many people of the 3.5 billion?
Yeah.
How many of them are mobile only?
Like 80% are mobile.
Okay.
So mobile is the biggest segment of the market.
Okay. So
no
if you're an
question.
advertiser, the sweet spot is to get into mobile gaming.
It's also the most competitive though, right? So it's like, it's a bit of a balancing act. So you absolutely want to be there, but you have to understand that it's also the place that is most ad driven,
Okay.
right? So if you're trying to go after mobile gamers, they're already being served quite a bit of advertising, right? So it's a relatively competitive space.
So from the 3 billion, how many would you classify as the stereotype hardcore gamer sitting in his basement or her basement, plugging away for hours on end?
Yeah, it's that 20%.
About 20%.
That I would put
Which is a
PC
huge
and
audience,
console gamers.
which is a huge audience.
Huge audience. They spend a lot of money on gaming, right? The average console today is like $700, $700 plus the games. The average gaming PC, you're talking $1,000 to $1,500 US. So there's already an investment in the gaming itself. These people are ready to spend.
When you meet someone, can you just tell right from the get-go if they're a PC gamer, console gamer, and then break even further, if they are a console gamer, what kind of console? Do you have that sort of intrinsic understanding of who they are?
I do. I don't know if it's something I could
All right,
actually...
do me.
You're definitely a console gamer.
100%.
Part of it is the age.
Yeah, thank
right?
you.
Like a lot of...
I'm much younger than I look.
People in our age group grew up with consoles.
Correct.
And grew up with a console in the living room, whether it was Nintendo or PlayStation.
I started with the NES.
Right? We grew up with that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us grew up to be console gamers.
Yeah.
If you were working in tech...
I have a console upstairs. What is it?
I put you as a Nintendo guy for sure.
No, I'm an Xbox guy.
Really?
Yeah, I'm an
Okay.
Xbox guy. Only because of Halo, honestly.
Okay.
I made that switch back in university days, 2001, 2002, I think it was, when
Why
Halo first
Halo?
came. Because I just love that first person shooter kind of fantasy Star Wars style game. I don't know what it is about. I just love the idea.
You're a
of it.
singer, right? You said
No,
you like to sing?
no. I was in a boy band a long time ago, but no, let's not go down that route.
I want to hear you belt out the first few notes
Ain't
of the
gonna
Halo
happen, pal.
soundtrack. Maybe the greatest gaming
By the way,
soundtrack of all time.
I've started watching the series. It's not bad, actually. It's not bad. It's not what you expect it to be, in the sense of it's never going to live up to the game because it can't. But at the same time, I don't mind it.
Yeah, that's an interesting area where I think there's a lot of potential that has not been realized. We've seen some successes.
Yeah.
So, for example, League of Legends, which is a huge game globally, PC game. League of Legends did Arcane on Netflix.
Yeah.
And Arcane has been a huge success. I think they're on season 2 now. Was a huge success on Netflix. So in other words, video game jumping from gaming to TV and the same IP translating properly.
Yeah.
But that's been rare so far. When you think about trends around the future, it's interesting you bring that up because that's one of the things I think we're going to see way more of.
You think Grand Theft Auto will do that?
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're spending $2 billion to build this game. They're going to have to recoup that investment somehow.
How long have they been waiting to build this game? How long has it been going on for?
About 6 years in development now.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. I mean, if you're in Hollywood, you can't wait 6 years for a movie.
I mean, you can't, but no Hollywood movie is going to sell like GTA 6 is going to sell.
100%. And to put that into context, if you add up the film industry, the music industry, and there's one other industry, they still
TV.
don't, and TV, they still don't equal the gaming industry.
Not even close.
Gaming is just dwarfs them all. 5 times the size of entertainment of Hollywood, I think.
Yeah. So if you look at gaming as a standalone and the movie industry as a standalone, again, depending on how you judge size or how you measure size, it's 5 to 10 times bigger than the movie industry.
Yeah.
So you're talking about already an industry that's massive, and it's growing much faster than the other two.
100%.
That trajectory, that trend line is much steeper for gaming than it is for any of the other forms of entertainment.
Big three in terms of the gaming studios. Sony, number one. Microsoft, number two. Tencent, number three. Or other way around? Tencent, number two, potentially.
Tencent and Microsoft are the two sort of 800-pound gorillas at the moment.
Okay.
Because Microsoft just bought Activision Blizzard. That was the biggest gaming deal of all time. And so putting Microsoft and Activision Blizzard together is a huge, huge gaming behemoth. But Tencent has ownership in just about everything. You name it. All the big studios, all the big games. Tencent has their hands in it.
But Sony as well, right? From PlayStation and all the, I mean, I'm guessing.
Sony does make a lot of games, but they're still not Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard size.
They're more hardware, I'm guessing.
No, they actually produce a lot of games. They do.
So generally speaking, what is the size of the gaming industry now?
About 250 billion, if I'm being conservative. I actually think it's probably closer to 300, but if you believe most of the official reports and consulting research firms that produce reports on this, about 250 billion.
Okay, so let's put it on your profit hat. 3 years time, what does that look like?
I think we're going to see relatively stable growth over the next 3 years. Essentially,
single digit?
No, double-digit growth year over year.
Okay.
But where the big inflection point happens will not actually be measured in that number. And here's what I mean by that. The way we measure gaming as an industry today is they look at, okay, they're playing Minecraft, they're playing Fortnite, they're playing Grand Theft Auto. Here's what they're spending on it. Let's put all those numbers together and here's the size of the industry, right? But there's so much around gaming that doesn't get included in those figures that I think is going to change the world. And this is what I call the gamification of everything. So in other words, today, even here, Dubai Police has an entire team sitting in their office making games, believe it or not. Why are they doing that? Why do you think Dubai Police would have a game development studio in their office?
They're trying to gamify ways in which people interact with the police?
That's one potential way. But what they're doing is they're building training simulations. So fully immersive worlds where a cop can put on a headset and
act out a certain scene.
Yeah, like a crime scene investigation or a traffic stop or whatever they want to train that police officer to be able to do.
Love it.
But they're building virtual worlds.
That's
they're
crazy.
Building games. They're all game designers. They're experts in Unreal and Unity, like the kind of engines that games are built on. That's what they're building there. Now, that would never get counted in the gaming industry number. But that's gaming.
Are they ahead of the curve when it comes to that? Or other countries, other governments putting money behind gaming in the public sector to invest in services like police?
In the public sector, it's really only in this region that you're seeing that. Like you're not seeing it. It's happening much more on the private side in other parts of the world. But from a public perspective, the UAE, Saudi, like all these places are really leading the way in terms of governments investing.
Yeah. And I know this region is sets apart from others because there is real political conviction around gaming and a belief in it. But do you see the evolution moving towards the private sector from the public sector in this region? Or do you see there's a sort of a dual role for both?
Definitely dual role for both. There has to be. In the sense that you cannot just build a Silicon Valley from nothing. And even if it's a Silicon Valley for gaming, you can't just put a building up and all the gaming companies in the world will show up. It doesn't work that way. There's no such thing of if you build it, they will come in this world. And so you have to prime the pump.
Dubai would argue. the brand Dubai would argue with that statement. And I would challenge you because Dubai was built on a dream. It was like, we're going to build it and we're going to create an infrastructure. People will come.
But there's a carrot, right? There was a reason people came.
It's the same thing they can do for gaming. They do tax breaks. They do incentives.
They have to have all those things.
Yeah.
Investment, tax breaks, subsidy programs, community engagement.
Abu Dhabi are focusing a lot on that, aren't they? At the moment, they're looking for that longer term attraction of good gaming talent into the region.
They had efforts in the past called AD Gaming, which is now part of the Department of Culture and Tourism, which I think had an interesting mandate a couple of years ago to provide subsidies to gaming companies that were willing to move to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
But where I think this has failed is there's no one silver bullet when you want to build an ecosystem from nothing. Meaning there's not one thing you can do that will get people to come. And even for Dubai, right? You said that's what Dubai has done, but it's not one thing. People come because it's sunny. People become because it's safe, because there's no tax. It's always a confluence of factors that drive people to make a decision like that.
Before we go any further, I always ask my guests for a safe word. I've realized we've been 15, 20 minutes. I haven't asked you yet for your safe word. Do you have a safe word?
No, I don't really have one. I'll tell you.
Give me anything you've got. First thing that comes to your mind.
I'll think of the two words I will never say. I'm Hillary Clinton.
Okay. You're not a fan of Hillary Clinton?
I'm not.
No?
No.
End of. Do you want to use your safe word? If I can ask you why, or are you going to say Hillary Clinton? That's your safe word.
U.S. politics, I think, is a fascinating, having lived in New York and having witnessed, I'm not American, but lived in New York and having witnessed American politics. I have strong opinions on everything.
Okay.
And I think that saying that those two words are words I would never say says enough about.
Clear. And you're Lebanese Canadian, is that right?
Lebanese Canadian, yeah.
Okay. And you've been in Dubai for the last 3.5, 4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Happy to be in Dubai?
It's paradise. What is there not to like?
There's not to like. So going back to, so you moved to Dubai because did you want to, because you've been talking a lot about the Middle East being a potential massive hub for gaming.
Yep.
So were you coming here? Was that you basically putting your feet where your mouth is?
Exactly. That's exactly it. I was spending time on my podcast saying, everyone's sleeping on the Middle East. Everyone's sleeping on the Middle East. Everyone's not realizing why they're set up to
Young
succeed.
population.
That's it.
They've got a lot of disposable income.
Yep.
I'm guessing.
Yes.
Infrastructure's there.
Exactly.
Governments want to support.
Exactly.
Is there a fifth? I like 5. 5's good. 3 or 5. We can't handle 4. Give me a 5th.
High penetration of gamers.
Love it. There we go.
So there's already a huge gaming population here.
Yeah.
And underserved, I would put a 6th, right? Like there's not a lot of
Keep
gaming.
the 5. 6 just gets
It's a 5 plus 1. But this is why, like, all the signs were there.
Yeah.
And I just got tired of talking about it. And at some point, the government of Dubai said, why don't you come help us figure this out? Because they wanted to launch what is now the Dubai Program for Gaming, the committee of which I sit on. And it's part of the vision for 2033. They want to bring 30,000 gaming jobs to Dubai. And now they've launched a gaming visa and all these things, right? So there was a lot of effort to bring gaming to Dubai, and I was part of that effort.
Is it residency or visa?
It was visa in the concept stage. Now they call it a residency. So thank you for correcting me.
That's
on that.
okay. That's what I'm here for. You know what's crazy is that the gaming community is only going to get bigger.
For sure.
We've had, look, again, without stereotyping too much, I'm guessing of the hardcore 20% gamers that we on console and PC, 85% are male. Would that be a fair assessment?
It's actually much more evenly split than you think.
Is it?
So
okay,
even
good.
in that,
I'm glad to hear that.
Even in that serious gamer category, it's actually only about 65-35.
Okay.
And if you go down to casual gamers, it's a 50-50 split down the middle.
Because when we were growing up, it was tend to be a boy-driven industry, gaming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the giving away my age, but early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah.
Girls didn't really play games.
And they were discouraged from playing games.
And they were discouraged. So more and more girls are going to be playing.
Yep.
Kids are now growing up with iPads in their hands at the age of God knows what age. So they're getting more used to using screen interfaces. So you're only going to get a bigger and bigger community of gamers in the future.
You hit the nail on the head of why I think, or one of the reasons why gaming is eventually going to win so much bigger than it even is today. It's because the demographics, like you said, there's an entire half of the audience, half of the potential player base, which for years was discouraged from playing. What happens to the little girl who's growing up now, who's 10, who's encouraged to play Roblox? What happens when she has money to spend? She's still going to be a gamer. And so all of a sudden, the player bases are going to swell. They're going to increase. And you have this huge demographic push that's going to happen that will catapult gaming to new levels without doing anything. We don't have to be smart. We don't have to do anything. It's all going to happen naturally because there's an entire population of female gamers that's going to come online.
Yeah. You're not the biggest fan of crypto and metaverse when it comes to gaming, right? Talk to me why, and tell the listeners.
I mean, the irony is I did author a book called Metaverse Dream.
Great book, by the way. It's sold out at the moment.
But Metaverse, I thought, was a little bit of I know why it's a little bit of a dirty word now, because it never had any meaning.
You're thinking like an investor, or you're thinking like a gaming expert?
Both.
Okay.
Both. And the reason is metaverse was an invented word to make gaming seem more serious. Because if you went to an investor, a gaming expert, a parent, it didn't matter who you went to, and you said, let's do gaming, they go, it's not serious, it's for kids, right? I'm not gonna invest in gaming, I'm not gonna do a gaming program, right? This is for kids, it's kids stuff. But metaverse sounds fancy. Metaverse sounds like the future. So all of a sudden it felt
It's
serious.
basically a massive marketing ploy, investment ploy, nothing more than that.
Nothing more than that, right? Fundamentally, anything I would categorize under the creation of virtual worlds,
Which has been going on for decades.
for decades,
You're
is
a big,
gaming.
yeah. You're a World of Warcraft fan, right?
Huge.
I mean, they have their own virtual world, their own metaverse, don't they?
It's been a metaverse since the 90s.
Yeah. So it's a marketing gimmick tool. Now, talking about crypto in that as well, right? And how people have been involving crypto in gaming and why that is not necessarily as big a boost as potentially it could have been.
Yeah. Crypto has a bit of a track record, and I make a lot of crypto people mad when I say this. But it has a bit of a track record of unfulfilled promise, right? Crypto was going to replace all the banks. Well, it hasn't really. And crypto was going to change the way everyone does everything. And we were never going to use normal money anymore. And everyone, crypto always has had unfulfilled promise. And what they've been good at is to maintain the levels of hype or the cyclical nature of the crypto industry. Great PR. And they latch on to the next big thing, right? So when gaming was having its moment in the sun during COVID, right, when everyone was stuck at home playing games and the gaming numbers were going through the roof, the crypto people said, oh, that gaming thing, we can do that. We can make gaming better. Let's put tokens in games and crypto in games and blockchain in games, and it'll be better. And the thinking just kind of stopped there. And all of a sudden, all the pitch decks I was getting was like, tokenomics, token. By the way, we're making a game. Token.
Too complicated. It's just, and that's what the problem with crypto anyway. It's overly complicated.
And they gloss over the hard part, which is, players don't care.
Just want to have fun.
They just want to have fun.
So going back, you even trademarked the word fun or something, right? You
I trademarked the future is fun.
The future is fun.
Yeah.
So how did that all come about?
A lot of the AI.
By the way, did you like my segue?
I did like that.
It was subtle.
although I'm always happy to rag on the crypto people a little bit more. But
we can rag on in a bit. Don't worry, it's coming. Yeah.
But the segue is interesting because I think fun is the killer app for everything, including crypto. They just don't realize it yet. But if I can make something more fun, I can get you to do it. It's the most powerful behavioral change agent ever created because it's built in, right? As humans, we seek fun. We seek pleasure. Our brain rewards us for it. And so anything that I can make more fun, anything I can gamify, it's why gamification is so powerful, but anything I can make more fun, I can get you to do it. So I do think the future is all about fun. That's why I trademarked it. But I think it's a counter to a lot of the AI dialogue, which is about, AI is going to take all our jobs. AI is going to replace us. AI is going to do everything we're doing now better than we can do it. Okay, I believe you. I buy that. But then what's the implication for humanity?
Have more time to have more fun.
That's it. Recreation is the growing piece of the pie, not the shrinking piece of the pie. And so as an investor, as a futurist, I want to bet on the growing piece of the pie. I'm thinking about the future, and I actually think the future is going to be more about fun.
I mean, if you think about it, I've heard you say this before. In the old days, we used to wake up really early, right? To plow the fields and go to bed super late at night. Now, most people go to 9 to 6. It's fine, they have a bit of time. But that 9 to 6 might get squished even further because of the likes of AI in the future, right? So you might have more time in the future to have more fun.
For sure. And AI, we haven't even scratched the surface, right? You've seen the Optimus robots from Tesla. Can you imagine how lazy we will actually be able to be?
How fat we're going to get as well. Right.
I've already done pretty good on my own on that one.
Paul, I want to get into this and the questions, right?
Yeah.
Right? So this is where you take charge, right?
Okay.
Open up the bag, read out one bull at a time, and let's have a debate. Let's talk insights. Hey guys, it's me again. Do you get worried about giving a speech or, being on a podcast or being someone that's been told to present in front of their client or even to their boss? A lot of people have anxiety when it comes to public speaking. In fact, 74% of every one of us is terrified about the idea of standing in front of other people and trying to convince them of something. The good news is there's a lot of people that can help. In fact, I've launched my own training program, which I'm calling Master Pitch, which combines my 20 years of corporate background running big businesses, dealing with clients, as well as my own personal passion point of presenting in front of large audiences or being on camera, or in fact, even being on the inside track. So if you want to improve things like your tone, your pace, your storytelling narrative, and how to structure properly, as well as to understand your audience better and to drive real impact, I'm sure I can help you out. Whether individual level or at a corporate level, my Master Pitch training program can definitely make you a better public speaker. So drop me an email at info@lucaallam.com or check out my website, lucaallam.com, if you want to find out more information, more details. Right, let's get back to the show.
Did you bring the golf balls just for me? Because golf is
No,
my...
if you watch
other
season
than
1
gaming.
and season 2, they've
Okay.
been there. I'm a big golfer.
All right. The true human insight that sits behind every gamer.
Yeah, so take a pause. What is the one human truth that sits behind every single gamer that sort of unites that community? What are they all looking for, searching for, wanting? What is it? And don't just say fun. I want it. Just go deep, man. Go deep.
Fun is it, but I'll give you another word. It's escape. It's escape. That gaming provides that escape from our everyday life, our everyday challenges and troubles. Gaming is incredible for stress relief. Gaming is incredible for mental health. Gaming is powerful to take our brain to another place. And escape is not new, right? We used to do this with books. People read books because their mind could escape somewhere else. But interactive media like gaming is so powerful to get your brain somewhere else. That's I think, the true insight that sits behind it, in addition to the fun.
So do you think there's an element of loneliness that sits behind gamers where when they meet with other gamers, they kind of somehow identify, create a community group, and they don't feel necessarily as alone? Because a lot of people, when they have anxiety or they're worried or stressed, can be quite lonely.
It's true. I think it's a little bit of a misconception, though, that I think gaming is fundamentally social for the most part. Now, there's a lot of single player games out there, but most gamers are actually quite social in games.
That's exactly what I'm trying to
Right?
say. So it's almost like they created their own community group, and they look. I mean, I've had friends that were hardcore gamers, and I lost touch with them because I wasn't part of that clique. I
Yeah.
wasn't able to sort of penetrate. I wasn't a hardcore gamer sitting on 4 hours, 5 hours sometimes at a time.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to penetrate that own group. But I know that they were so close to each other, and they would feel like they would escape together. So yes, there's an escapism element, but I was just wondering if there's also a factor of not feeling alone as well.
I do think that exists, but I don't think that's unique to gaming, right? Like if you're a big watch nerd or you're a big shoe nerd, right? There's communities that are welcoming to that you can find friends in and be social around. What is unique to gaming, other than the escape, is this idea that it's a level playing field, right? Meaning I could be playing online, Call of Duty, Halo, Fortnite, you name it. These days, Marvel Rivals, whatever the game is, right? Apex. And I could be playing one day with a 50-year-old man sitting in Boston, and the next day with a 14-year-old kid sitting in Bahrain, right? And I'll still have fun.
You're still trying to kill them both.
Right. But there's an element of it's a completely level playing field, and it's a great equalizer.
So no titles, no reputations.
That's
except
it.
A gaming reputation.
That's it.
There's a kind of air of socialism about it.
I mean, maybe that's my safe word. That's a dirty word in my book. But
but you know what I'm trying to say, where everyone is on the same.
It's accessibility.
Whether you're a CEO,
in its
whether you're
most
in
perfect form.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would have loved to have been a great hockey player growing up.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not 6'4", and I'm not built like a tank, and I'm not a good skater, but I'm not the most gifted skater on the planet. Right. And these are things there's nothing I can do about it. I'll never be 6'4".
I was speaking
But
to
gaming, none of that's required.
I was speaking to a gamer. He's called Bashak out in the region. He told me he didn't speak any English, but he learned English through through gaming and through his online communities. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, but I'm not surprised. It is massively accessible, which is, again, another one of those reasons why it will win.
Yeah, love it. Next ball.
Next ball.
Do you want to pop the ball down somewhere else?
Here, I'll put this here. All right. Give 3 ideas on how we could gamify this show. That's a good one. I like that.
Think about it. I'm going to use it. So you literally said you could gamify anything, right?
I think you could gamify anything.
Yeah. What you could do, if you want to keep that you could keep it in the back of your mind. It could be mulling around at the back, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have any ideas
let's
now.
come back to this one.
And we could
I wanna
answer it
end on
later.
this one.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's a good one to end on. Let's do that. Name 3 games that changed the world.
Now, and here's the thing. Don't jump into this.
Yeah.
Right? Change the world.
Yeah.
I mean, change the world. Not like the best games. I'm saying games that had the biggest impact on the world. If aliens come, onto this planet and they look back through the archives of all games, when did things really start to change?
Yeah.
What 3 games would they pick?
So we have to put Pong on there. First game ever, Pong.
Okay.
Right? It was 2,
Space Invader style thing or not?
No, it was 2 bricks with a ball that bounced between them,
Okay.
right? Came out of an MIT lab, actually. I went to MIT, my alma mater.
Which decade?
This would have been in the 80s.
Okay.
Or late 70s, I should say. And Pong was the first video game. So I think that definitely has to be on the list, even though no one plays Pong today, has to be on the list. The second game I would put, I'm going in chronological order here.
Love that.
The second game I would put is Tetris.
I swear to you, I was going to say Tetris.
Yeah.
I told my wife off camera, I really hope he says Tetris.
Have you seen the movie I think it's on Apple. It was Apple kind of original film that was made.
No.
So the CEO of Tetris today is a woman named Maya Rogers. Her dad famously got Tetris out of the Soviet Union, risked basically his life to get it out of the Soviet Union. It's a crazy story. If you watch the movie, you won't even believe it. It's all true. It's an incredible story. The game has more longevity than maybe any other game in history, still played today by millions.
It was the first mobile game, effectively, right?
A Game Boy. It really launched Game Boy. It's the reason Game Boy succeeded and portable gaming succeeded, and still played by millions. So
I'm so glad you said that. So glad.
Third one. Fun. It's fun.
It is fun.
Third, I will put the greatest game of all time.
Oh, God.
World of Warcraft.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Why?
World of Warcraft changed people's expectation of games. And what I mean by that is up until that point, there was no expectation that gaming had any longevity beyond, you played the game, you beat the game, and then you put the game away. But World of Warcraft was really the first huge success that was and there were games like World of Warcraft that came out before. I'll tip my hat to EverQuest for the real gaming nerds listening. EverQuest was World of Warcraft before World of Warcraft, but it didn't have the staying power. It didn't have the success of World of Warcraft, so therefore it didn't have the impact. But World of Warcraft was the first game that people have now played for 25 years. Consistently. There are players who still have been in the same characters, playing the same game, and it's because the world has evolved, the world has grown, and it allowed for a sense of wonder. Right? The first time you discovered a new zone in this world, the first time you beat the newest boss or the newest raid, and it was social, right? You couldn't do things unless you were grouped with sometimes 40 other people. You needed to group up with other people to beat whatever the boss was or to overcome whatever that challenge was. And it changed people's expectations of gaming completely. It's still the benchmark. It's still massively successful. It's a huge cash cow. It's still the game I judge all other games by. I mean, the day World of Warcraft gets dethroned is maybe the next major milestone in gaming.
Okay. So Pong?
Pong?
Pong or Pong?
Pong.
Pong.
P-O-N-G.
P-O-N-G. Pong, Tetris, and World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my holy trinity.
And if you were to pick 3 games that your favorite games, excluding World of Warcraft, what would they be?
Oh, wow. Counter-Strike would definitely be up there.
Okay.
I played way too much.
By the way, you can't see this, but the production guy over your shoulder is like nodding away. He's
they call me the prophet, and I'll humble myself for a little bit. I was mining, my cred as a crypto person may go up or down here. You'll decide.
Yeah.
I was mining Bitcoin when Bitcoin was like at $100. Okay, because I had gaming PCs up the wazoo, and I had graphics cards up the wazoo, and I was mining Bitcoin. And I'm like, wow, I'm creating this stuff. This is cool. What can I do with it? And I realized I could buy Counter-Strike skins.
How many did you
gun
have?
skins.
How many did you have?
Oh, you can go see my Steam account. It's all public.
Okay.
I have a collection that, I mean, if you're a Counter-Strike
More than
fan,
your shoes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's maybe in today's dollars, like 300,000 US dollars worth of Counter-Strike skins. Now, I was mining thousands of Bitcoin and spending it on Counter-Strike skins thinking, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
Like this worthless thing I'm mining, creating out of nothing, and I'm getting this actually useful thing. I thought I was the biggest genius ever. But Counter-Strike definitely is up there as one of my favorite games of all time. I played a game called Quake 3. So it's from the guys who made Doom. It was a multiplayer game. I played that. It was the first game I played professionally in the first professional league called the Online Gaming League. So that will always be close to my heart. And then EverQuest. I mentioned it before, but I probably have 10,000 hours in EverQuest. I was hooked. This is the first game I was truly addicted to.
I'm gonna give you my three.
Okay.
Even though you haven't asked me.
No, I'm curious.
I'm gonna give you my three. I'm gonna show you my age.
Yeah.
Super Mario Kart.
Okay. Great game.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Surely.
A way to make friends and lose friends.
Amazing. I used to play against my brother all the time.
Okay.
He was
And who
Mario
won?
and I was Luigi.
Okay.
It's my
He's not
show.
going to watch this,
It's
right?
my show,
Oh, yeah.
so I can say what I like. Number two, Legends of Zelda.
Okay.
Ocarina of Time.
Why that one?
I love the fantasy element of it.
Okay.
I love the quest element of it.
Yeah. Have you played the new ones?
No, I haven't.
Don't want to go back?
Don't want to go back.
Okay.
Third, Halo. The
Halo-
original.
Halo.
Come on, what a game. What a game.
But
It made Microsoft. It literally made Microsoft. It made Xbox.
it did, and then they bungled that whole relationship.
Regardless.
Actually,
But that changed the game for Xbox at the time. Changed the game for Microsoft.
it was kind of the killer app for the Xbox. It was,
So those are my favorite three.
but it was also a really epic story, right? Like the production level of Halo was a cut above everything that had been done before that.
You wanted me to sing off camera the
Yeah.
yeah, not gonna happen.
Oh, come on.
Let's move on to the next ball.
Saudi esports strategy, cheat code or counterproductive? Saudi is very focused on esports. And I'll preface my answer by saying, let's distinguish between gaming and esports because there is a small distinction. I put esports under the gaming umbrella, but it's a subsegment of the gaming industry, which is professionals on a stage competing for money with an audience watching.
$60 million prize pool.
Yeah. I don't know how they came up with that number.
Insane amount of money.
Other than it was a big number. I mean, I have an issue with that number, by the way.
It's an insane amount of money.
But if it was 20 million, would you still think it's insane?
I mean, I think the number of money in sports anyways is pretty insane, to be honest with you. But if you win the US Open,
Yeah.
right? You win Wimbledon. You win
It's like maybe 4 million?
yeah, and you're killing yourself for 2 weeks physically competing with the best of the best. It's
Yeah.
tough, and it's physical endurance as well as skill, mental endurance. Versus, again, I know I'm old school,
Yeah.
sitting down playing video games, and you can make much more money playing video games.
Now, hold on. We disagree on one point here because I actually think the level of competition and the way these guys train who compete at that level
Fair, I don't know.
is just as grueling
Yeah.
as what the tennis players do. Maybe not physically,
Yeah.
in some ways physically,
Yeah.
because it is mentally draining. They still spend 20,000 hours sitting in front of a computer.
I'm with you. But then look at the prize pool versus the viewing audience of each of those different tournaments. US Open gets beamed around the world, right?
Yeah, but again, be careful there because if you look at the League of Legends World Finals, it's like the audience is 10x what the Super Bowl would get.
Is it really?
Yeah. So you're
Where's that audience being based? Where
Asia. Asia has a
Is it really?
huge esports
Okay.
audience. Huge
Okay.
esports audience. And again, when you look at spend,
Good insight.
depending what game you're looking at. So this is the distinction.
Yeah.
Sports is often lumped together. Esports is tricky because Counter-Strike esports, the audience, the dollars, the advertisers, the geographies are all radically different from League of Legends esports or mobile. Like there are plenty of mobile games, PUBG Mobile.
And do you think that's the reason why advertisers haven't yet fully embraced this form of advertising on gaming platforms, on esports, because of the complications?
I hope not, because that's easily solved, right? You bring in someone who understands the landscape.
Yeah.
It's relatively easy to navigate. I think what has prevented them is more just the perception or misconceptions around this. Again, it's an audience of kids that doesn't have money to spend, right? Or the numbers are small. It's a gaming thing. So I think it's some mostly misconception and a perception issue rather than a we don't understand it, so let's stay away. Because I think that's easy to solve. But so esports really is a subsegment of competitive play. And Saudi's strategy is very esports heavy. Remember I said the holy grail is getting gaming companies to move to wherever you are and build games there? Esports is kind of the shiny bauble in my mind of that universe.
It's a short-term tourism play, isn't it?
It's a tourism play, no question, right? It's an attention play. You knew the $60 million, right? You don't follow esports?
No, I mean, I do my research. But
yeah, but meaning you're not a regular esports watcher. You probably saw that 60 million headline somewhere, and that's what they're paying for. The headline, the attention, maybe they get some tourism. But I think the one thing common between the West and the Arab world, the MENA region, is esports is not financially sustainable as a standalone endeavor. What I mean by that is, even if you invest billions and put up esports stadiums and pay esports teams and put on big esports tournaments and have huge prize pools.
It's not grassroots level, right? It's not ingrained within the culture, the fabric.
Yeah, you won't have an industry that will be profitable even 20 years from now. You just won't. It's so incredibly 100% ad driven as a revenue source that you can't sustain that in terms of the level of spend you have to do.
Because again, like I said, you're not building it from the grassroots level for a sustainable future.
That's it. Now, where esports has worked sustainably is, for example, League of Legends is a good example. I'll come back to it. League of Legends spends a lot on esports, but they see it as a marketing spend, right? We'll put on this huge tournament. So they'll fill stadiums, they'll spend lots of money, they'll put on a big show, they'll invest a huge amount of money, but they know that the millions, the hundreds of millions of people watching will then go play the game and buy League of Legends skins. And by selling the skins, they'll make money to recoup the marketing cost of esports. I'm afraid that Saudi has been enamored with the shiny bauble, right? It's fun to get attention. And they've ignored, I think for too long now, to the detriment of their overall gaming strategy, they've ignored the holy grail that they could have won that. And I think now it's too late. I don't think they will win that gaming holy grail anymore. They will not have a sustainable gaming industry there.
Because of now the association they built up with the esports in particular? Because
they've spent billions on things that 10 years from now probably will go away. Like the 60 million prize pool, my argument is kind of it's the canary in the coal mine. It's like 20 million would have still got you the headline. Do you know how many startups you could fund, gaming startups in Saudi with $40 million, the difference between 60 and 20?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like an entire venture fund. I could have seeded 25 great startups to go build gaming companies in Saudi Arabia. And yeah, maybe Saudi has unlimited money. Okay. But at some point, other players in the region are going to get smart. And the head start that Saudi had and the dollar start that Saudi had, at some point that vanishes. They're operating as if they're in a vacuum and they're not.
Nice.
Next ball.
Let's do it.
Rank in social responsibility: player, parent, studio, or country.
So there's been a lot of negative PR around gaming, and the responsibilities of where does it ultimately fall when it comes to? I mean, there's been the whole blue whale fiasco, right? Obviously, you're aware of this.
No, what is the blue whale fiasco?
So it's effectively a game where people have to complete certain tasks, in order to get certain points.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's led to suicides. It's actually led to deaths.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you think? And there's a lot of games like GTA in the past has a lot of in terms of the violence factor, et cetera, et cetera. So it's come up a few times over the years. Where does the responsibility when it comes to the actual game itself, where does that lie? Is it with the player, parents? Is it with the studio itself, or with the country?
It's a great question. I think it's always easy to vilify any new media. It's easy. And when we were growing up, maybe you probably remember this. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing. Rap music was going to destroy our entire generation.
The boom boxes.
If we were listening to rap, our parents all of a sudden thought we were going to grow up to be gangsters, degenerates, right? Like just the act of listening to rap music was going to destroy all of us. Well, it didn't, right? And the reality is every generation has its media villain, has something that's going to destroy us all. So I think it's easy to just point fingers at whatever kids are doing today and say, that's the problem. The reality is there's plenty of studies that show kids who game, for example, do better in school, perform better on tests, are socially better with other kids, right? There's plenty of studies that show the positive attributes of gaming. Now, when you ask about who's responsible, I think if you look at gamers, because if you're an adult, if you're a 40-year-old man, right, you're responsible, right? Like if you're gaming and you're ignoring your job, and it's no different than having a gambling addiction or being addicted to anything, an alcohol addiction, right? You're responsible. So let's talk about the detriment of kids gaming, because I think that's usually where people put sort of the fault, right? This is bad for kids.
But social media, to play devil's advocate, has had that for a long time in terms of being the villain. Okay,
for sure.
Australia very recently basically said anyone under 16 cannot be on social media. So they, as a country, they put legislation down to basically protect, adolescents.
Look,
that's one example of showcasing how it's not just with gaming. It's across all types of media and entertainment vehicles.
For sure, and in gaming has the same challenges, right, as social media, as music, as any of these things, right? Yeah. And to your point, most people don't even realize, like, to have a Facebook account or an Instagram account, you need to be 13. It's in the terms of service. I know a lot of 11-year-olds who have Instagram accounts. And the point is, I think from a country level, it's almost impossible to put guardrails around media. It's not their job, and it never really works. China had huge lockdowns around gaming where they were trying to control the hours kids could game, the kinds of games they could play.
But here in the UAE, for example, you couldn't buy GTA, the most recent GTA. It wasn't able to buy here. That was a government decision, wasn't it?
In Saudi, that's still the case for some games, by the way, right? That they still look at all media and they judge if it's appropriate for the region or not. But so the country, I think the problem is kids will always find a way around country level kind of guardrails. They'll always figure out a way. China almost destroyed their gaming industry because they had these regulations for a year and they realized they weren't working and lifted them. And all they were doing was destroying the gaming economy. To me, the responsibility falls squarely on the parent. You asked me to rank parent number one.
Okay.
Because it's no different than, you cannot abdicate, I think, your responsibility as a parent for anything. If you hand your kid an iPad with YouTube on it and expect YouTube to parent the kid and you can go and do whatever you want for 2 hours, that's just as bad as giving them Roblox or Minecraft and walking away.
Yeah.
The parent has to know what the kids are playing, has to know how long they're playing, has to know who they're playing with. And yes, there's responsibility on the games, especially if you're dealing with minors. So Roblox, Minecraft, all these games, again, have guardrails. You cannot create a Roblox account if you're under a certain age. And if you are under a certain age and your parent creates the account for you, you cannot receive messages from adults, right? So they block incoming messages from adults if you're a minor. So the game has some responsibility to put guardrails, but none of it is enough to abdicate the parent's responsibility.
So parent first, then?
Parent first, then the player, right? If you're an adult, then the studio, then the country last, because the country is the least effective.
Okay.
Parents the most effective.
It's funny. I would argue that the country is the most effective. If you can't find it, if you can't get it, if you're banned totally, all the IPs and all the gateways are closed and locked down.
How many people do you know in Dubai who use FaceTime?
Not that many. Honestly, not that many. Zoom a lot, but not FaceTime so much. I know what you're saying. You'll find ways around it.
Yeah.
But there are physical blocks. I mean, I wanted to buy a GTA here. I couldn't. So I didn't buy it. As simple as that, because it wasn't available. And I'm not that hardcore a gamer to want to fly to another country or get it reshipped or redistributed to sort of arrives here. So I do think there is some level of strong protection if a government as strong as the UAE or Saudi mandates it. I think it's a pertinent question. I think it's important because the bigger the community gets,
Yep.
right? You've got to make sure it's also safety and security for the minors coming on board. Because, like, I'm a parent and you're obviously a parent as well. So it's really about making sure that you're protecting your kids as much as you can. Right, next question.
Next question.
Let's do it. We're on a roll. How are we doing so far with the questions?
I love them.
Amazing.
This is good. Storytelling preference, player involvement or studio original?
So this is about basically writing the script of the game.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of the whole Black Mirror, choose your own ending, player involvement, or do you want the actual studio, the narrative to keep original?
Look, gaming is built on player involvement, right? It's an interactive medium. Now, there are some games where you don't necessarily choose your own adventure. You're on rails, right? The game's taking you where it wants you to go. I think increasingly those games are becoming less and less popular. So for me personally, definitely player involvement. No question. I want to be the hero in my story.
Yeah.
Again, I want to escape. I want to be the knight, the whatever. I want to be the person that saves the universe.
Yeah. Who would play you in a movie?
Oh, that's a good question. So I went to MIT. Okay. Some people think I'm a little bit of the real life Iron Man, Tony Stark.
Okay.
So Robert Downey Jr. I don't know, someone dangerously good looking, right?
By the way, I know someone who knows him, so we'll give him
a call. Yeah. When he's not doing Marvel movies.
That's it. I've had enough of those movies. Halas. Movies, Marvel, done. Enough. How many do you have left? I think we've got one or two.
I have just one left.
Okay.
Crypto and blockchain are limiters for gaming growth. Debate. I'm curious what you think about this. First, I'm curious to get an outsider's perspective.
Blockchain is too complicated.
Okay.
Crypto is confusing because where do you even begin?
Okay.
Gaming, in its essence, is simple.
Yep.
You have an objective, you have a task, you have to go out and do it.
Yep.
So when you combine simplicity with complexity and confusion, for me, it doesn't tend to work particularly well.
Yeah. And I think as a marketing person, you can appreciate this. The more complicated you make something, the less likely you're going to get people on board, whether to buy or to use it or to play it, whatever. No one wants complication.
No.
And
it doesn't sell.
It doesn't sell.
But if it will sell short term for those who think they can make a bit of a quick return, right? But long term, it'll be found out.
Yeah, this is a good question because there's nuance in it, right? Today, crypto and blockchain are limiters for Web3 gaming growth. So in other words, for that genre of games.
It's a small community, Web3 games.
Relatively small. To be honest, it's the biggest part of the Web3 world, right? If you look at where all the hype and dollars have gone in Web3, it's two things. It's Bitcoin and crypto games. That's where all the investment dollars have gone. But fundamentally, they've made two mistakes. One, like you mentioned, they've made it complicated, right? Like the average gamer doesn't care if his game runs on a blockchain to store the items or an Oracle database, right? Like they don't care. The same way you don't care if the app you use on your phone was written in Java or C++ or Swift or whatever, right? So the gamer doesn't care. The user, fundamentally, forget gamer, doesn't care about the underlying tech. And the second you start throwing tech at them, you lose them. But the bigger limiter today is a lot of these Web3 games, a lot of these crypto games, blockchain games, whatever you want to call them. If you go into those communities, you go on Discord, right? Discord is the communication platform for gamers. You go into Discord and you sit in the communities of those games. All they're talking about is
money. Yeah.
What's the token price at? To the moon, like golden hands, diamond hands, paper, lots of hands, right? Like
not about the game itself.
No, you go sit in the World of Warcraft community on Discord.
You're the one leading it. That's why.
It's, how do you beat this quest? Is this sword better than that sword to kill this boss, right? There's discussion around the game. And the limiter is if the initial community you're building around your game doesn't care about the game, they're not going to stick around for a year, 2 years, definitely not 20 years. And so it is a limiter if you're not building a community early on that cares fundamentally about the game and nothing else.
Because there's no fun in it.
There's no fun in it. The economics, I think there is a future where crypto and blockchain can make gaming better by being some underlying technology that the gamer never sees never knows exists, and it may help, a gaming studio monetize their game better or raise money for a game more efficiently. But the gamer will never know.
Yeah.
That's the only way this makes gaming better, the way I see it today.
Love it. We've got a nice segue into the last question.
The last question. Which came first, the fun or the game? I mean, come on.
Think about it. We've got the chicken and egg situation, right?
Yeah.
As cavemen,
Yeah.
were we having fun because we were playing games, or were we playing games because we were trying to have fun? Like, what came first, the fun or the game?
I have to be careful because this podcast rated PG, right? Fun is the most primal, like, human emotion.
Is it?
Yeah, we are. I'll try and be as PG as possible about it. We are driven to procreate.
Yes.
Because it is fun.
Okay.
And in some ways, we're one of the only species that have a pleasure feedback loop around that.
So there's two fundamentals I'm aware of. One is avoid pain, suffering, and reward yourself with pleasure. In whatever way, whatever form that looks like.
Yeah. But that dopamine hit, that pleasure hit, that fun, that feeling of I'm enjoying myself, I think is extremely primal and existed before we had conceived of anything that was a game. Now, games and fun are as primal as they get. Like if you leave kids to their own devices, the way they learn, if you don't put them in school, if you don't put any structure around them, fun is wired into their brains naturally. A kid will naturally want to play.
And they amuse themselves. I've got a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. They'll amuse themselves with anything. Like a plastic bottle. All of a sudden becomes
and invent games.
Yeah. So which came first, the fun or the game?
I think the fun came first. Not only is the future fun, the past is fun too.
Look at that. Look at trademark. Look at that camera. Trademarked as well on the inside track.
Put a little copyright.
Fantastic. Great answer. You got one question that we asked at the beginning, and that's been mulling around.
Yeah.
Remind the listeners, viewers, of what that question was.
How do we gamify this show?
Three ways.
Give
me one way. It's okay. If you can't come up with 3, 1 is fine.
Let me just give you an example of, I think, one of the simplest ways people can gamify things, right? Gamification can play to a competitive nature of humanity, right? Because a lot of gaming is competitive. And so anything that has a leaderboard in some way, I think, can be made more fun and more interesting. So if there's some way to reward your viewers, right? Maybe there's a one golf ball that I pull and I read, but I don't answer. Your audience answers, right? And all the responses you get are quantified and put on a leaderboard, right? Who's answered the most balls over a season? Who's had the best thoughts over a season, right? And start some kind of competition between viewers. Anything where you can create a leaderboard among viewers, I think will get people to listen more and gamify the experience. Now, there's a lot of ways you can create mini games, right? To get people to spend time with content. And I'll give you an example that's not this podcast, but something that I think works really well in the real world. Did you ever use AliExpress?
No, but my wife did.
Okay. AliExpress does something very smart. If you download their app, there's actually mini games built into their app. You think, why? Like, it's a shopping app, right? What am I? If I'm going to go, why would I play a mini game? But the cool part is, if you play the mini games, which happen to be casual games that are kind of fun, right? The kind of games you would download on your phone to spend 10, 20 minutes wasting time, right? You earn coins. And those coins can be spent in store. Now, if at some point you want to launch the Insight Track app, right, where all your content's there, you could potentially put some special content, not behind a paywall, but behind a wall that is gamified. So only people who interact in some way get access to that content.
Love it.
And I think if you give people entertainment and a reward for that entertainment, they will spend more time in the app. They will spend more time on your content.
Love it. Very nice.
That's 2.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
If a third one hits you on the way home, just drop me a message.
That's it. The third one's behind a paywall.
Yeah. Look, Paul, it's been great having you on the show, honestly. Before we wrap up, I always give my guests a chance to either say one last thing that they haven't quite said or ask anything that they want. This is a blank ball. It's white, nothing on it. The power is yours, my friend.
Can I do both? I have one last thing I want to say, but I wanted to ask you a question in terms of now, after everything we've talked about, okay?
I'm going to go play World of Warcraft. Yeah.
From a business perspective, are you more excited about gaming as an industry? And do you see some of where the potential is for gaming? Again, because you came from this marketing world. You understand that marketing mindset. You understand how to get into people's heads. Do you think we will see more and more brands, if this message gets out, decide that gaming is a big place they need to play?
So, thank you. Gaming, the conversation around gaming with clients is not a new thing. It's been going on for the best part of a decade.
Yep.
Okay. Every year, when I was running a big agency, we would talk to clients about the importance of gaming. And they're like, yeah, we know. And we'd share the numbers, we'd go into the demographics and by geos. But there was still this uncertainty of point of entry. And this is what I mentioned to you beforehand. Gaming is such a vast term and it's split and diced and sliced in so many different ways.
Yep.
The entry point of it is one thing. Capturing and understanding and measuring the response of that channel is the second thing, right? Third thing, how does it coordinate with all the other media also that you've been working with? So it's that integrated play that you also need to think about.
Okay.
And don't do gaming just for gaming's sake. You've got to play it true to its own strengths as a channel. And there aren't enough media planners or media buyers out there who are experienced enough when it comes to gaming. Unfortunately, they're not. From a media perspective, there may be gamers on the side, but it's not a mature market when it comes to a mature vehicle when it comes to advertising investments. So there's a complexity factor. There is a lack of skill set potential factor also from the agency or from the client side. And then the third factor is the measurement, the ROI, and how it fits with other channels. So that's been the biggest blocker. Those 3 reasons have been the biggest blockers why advertising haven't flocked yet to these types. When you have an esports one-stop event, they can almost put that like a TV kind of big shiny format, and they can get their head around it because
Feels
it's
more
like,
familiar.
Yeah, it's like, okay, here's the people in the audience. Here's the viewing numbers. These are the markets. This is what's guaranteed. Okay, we're going to treat it like a TV buy, a sponsorship plus package. Doing it within mobile, doing it within console, doing it within PC, but properly integrating it into creating your own skins or proper brand integrations takes longer lead times, more complexity, and there isn't a skill set to deliver against that. That's why you've seen a lack of real integration of brands into these opportunities around gaming.
How far away do you think we are from every major campaign, from every big brand involving some gaming component? In the same way, if you looked at every campaign today, they'd all have some social component.
Look,
right?
10 years ago, but it's 40, I came to the market in Dubai 2010. Okay, digital spend was less than 5%.
Yep.
Less than 5% of an advertiser.
Only 10 years ago.
2010. So 15 years ago. 15 years ago. Fast forward now, it's about 60%, right? 65%. The remaining is split between TV, out of home, a little bit on radio, very small on print.
Yep.
Digital is the bulk. And where is the money going on? On digital is going on the big social platforms. The Googles of the world, the Metas of the world, the TikToks of the world, Snap and so on, and X. So why? Because they've got the reach, they got the economies of scale, and they can track performance. Fully, end to end. And in a day and age where marketers are obsessed with return on investment, short term, they want those immediate returns. That's why Facebook for them makes sense. Instagram makes sense. YouTube makes sense. And that's been the difficulty, not just for gaming, but for all of the other media suppliers out there, whether it's TV, whether it's out of home, whether it's radio, whether it's print. They've suffered because of the strength of digital tech-based platforms that can give you that visibility, they give you that accountability, and they give you that immediate return. And that's why gaming has also struggled, because it's competing against these guys, as well as trying to figure out its own ecosystem when it comes to advertising.
Yeah, it's interesting because it has the same advantage, right? Like instead of running an ad on TV, on linear broadcast TV, where it's really hard to measure you can't measure engagement, really. You can maybe measure some eyeballs and it's rough numbers.
You do that, but also on digital, the impact you have on digital. Search volumes, for example, and all that kind of. There are some similarities.
But if I sponsor a live stream, like a gamer live streaming a game, I can actually go in and look at what people are saying in the chat in real time about my brand, about the ad spot, like whatever it is, right? I can get real time, very kind of discrete feedback.
Look, I would love to help you change that. And I would love to be part. Look, my background is media and marketing. I know what clients really look for, what they want. I know what the capabilities are from the agency side as well.
Yeah.
And now I'm on the content side and creating it. I'm seeing a different type of world as well. Gaming is one of those kind of intersections where it's kind of both. The guy, Bashak, I was talking to you about before, he's got millions of people just watching him on YouTube play a video game.
Yeah.
That's just content.
Yeah.
But it's basically funded and brought to you by gaming. So there's a nice intersection between media and marketing, gaming, and also content creation.
The other thing you mentioned that I wanted to touch on is the making gaming feel familiar, I think, is only a short-term solution, because there's nuance that is lost there. And people have tried, like Activision Blizzard very famously tried to launch something called Overwatch League. And their approach was, we'll make this feel like traditional sports, right? We're going to have teams that are city-based. So the Boston the New York Excelsior, right? Like, we're going to have teams that are based in cities like sports teams. We're going to have home games and away games like sports. And it worked to sell sponsors, right?
They got it because there was a currency that they can cross-reference with. They can basically take the same package, compare that with TV, apples to apples, say, right, you know what? Gives me a very similar level of CPM, return of investment, whatever the case is. Let's go for it. Makes sense. Plus, it ticks innovation box. But what I was saying to you beforehand, to do gaming properly, you've got to get into it. And you've got to do it. You've got to play to the strengths of the vehicle, the gaming advertising vehicle,
exactly,
which they don't have the skill set for.
But this is what's interesting. To your point, it worked to bring sponsors, but it failed with the gamers and the audience, because the team sitting in New York, who has, by the way, 6 players from Korea, right? All the fans are sitting in Korea.
Yeah.
So they didn't care about cheering for a New York team. They weren't going to go to watch the games in Brooklyn.
It's not relevant for them.
Because gaming is fundamentally very global, right? There's no geographic limits with gaming. They're artificial. And so it made it familiar to the sponsor, but it didn't work with the gamers. And I think that you hit the nail on the head in terms of the challenge, right? If you make it familiar for one, do you lose the other side?
Yeah.
So how do you make the sponsors understand what the other side actually wants?
And again, they want guarantees.
Yeah.
Every advertiser, when you want to spend $1 million, $10 million, whatever the case is, they want guarantees.
Yeah.
You get that with the other channels. Look, we could talk hours and hours about media. We'll take offside. But look, it's been phenomenal having you on, Paul. I've learned a hell of a lot in the last hour or so. Really, really smart guy. You obviously know your stuff. I think what you're trying to do for this region is fantastic. We're really glad that you're here. And keep flying that gaming flag, and we're going to flock behind you. And holodeck or no holodeck, we're going to be right there with you. But do stay in touch with us.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing you soon.
It was a pleasure. I had a lot of fun, and I hope people leave this believing that the future is fun.
You can look at that camera and say, "Believe the future is fun."
The future is fun.
Trademarked right here.
Yeah, the prophet said so.
I love it. Guys, please like, subscribe, and share. And thank you so much for watching Luca's Inside Track.